Exploring the wild and remote corners of Iceland in my own four-wheel drive camper has been a bucket list dream trip of mine for at least a decade. Expectations are absolutely through the roof. Come with us as we set out to see if they can be met. Good morning everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Road Chose Me. Today, something a little bit different. We are on the road in the Westfijords of Iceland. And this, I'll show you the map, this is way up in the northwest. Kind of a lesser visited place that's really beautiful, kind of slower, less busy. And so we're really excited to roam around. Obviously there's stunning fjords. We hope we'll get to see some puffins. There are a ton of hot springs. You can see the size of the smile on my face. So we're going to roam around. It might take us a week to explore the whole Westfjords. So come along with us, see what we find. Right now we've just boiled some water for coffee. We're about to do some scrambled eggs. It is a cold, blustery day outside. I don't actually know what the weather forecast is, but windy and cold and raining. Sounds like a good day for some hot springs, good day to go on adventure. Let's see what trouble we can find. Here we are exploring the Westfjords of Iceland. To kick things off in the Westfjords, we decide to aim for the westernmost point of the entire island of Iceland. This is a super famous region, and we'll get to that shortly, but in order to get there, we have to traverse a ton of the fjords that make this region so famous. And we quickly learn that while something might be only 5 or 10 kilometers in a straight line, by the time we drive all the way down into a fjord and back out again to these stunning coastal views, we can cover 50, 80, even 100 kilometers. This teaches us pretty quickly the best way to enjoy this is to slow down and just take every day and every adventure as it comes. We also learn early on the weather in Iceland is extreme and it changes in every fjord. One can be stunning sunshine, and by the time you drive into the next, it can be raining sideways and blowing a gale. So again, we quickly learn, take advantage of the good weather while you have it. Chances are, it's not going to last. We don't have a stated goal to drive every road in the Westfjords, and certainly not in all of Iceland. But here, it kind of makes sense to go up and down each fjord and see what there is and explore as much as we possibly can. Of course, we visit a handful of wild and remote hot springs along the way, most of which are so deserted we have them all to ourselves, and we soak for hours, either right down at ocean level or just above the crashing waves. As far as I'm concerned, this is paradise. Of course, there's plenty of other adventures along the way, from old shipwrecks to stunning waterfalls and ancient Viking villages. This place really does feel like a different part of the earth. The westernmost point of Iceland is super famous for having an enormous rugged cliff and one of the best places to spot puffins on the island. After walking back and forward for an hour, we eventually hear they're right near the start of the cliff, and we spend the next half an hour watching these awesome little birds hang out on the cliff edge. A close relative of penguins, these beautiful little guys spend the summer in Iceland and then migrate further south before the cold weather hits. We were super lucky to see them. About a week after this, they left Iceland and there were none more to be seen. As you can see, a lot of the roads out here in the Westfjords are not for the faint of heart. With cliff edge on both sides, there isn't always a lot of room to pass an oncoming car. Everyone seems to drive pretty carefully, and there were a few tourists with fear in their eyes, but everything worked out just fine. With the huge increase in visitors since COVID, wild camping has been outlawed across all of Iceland, so we can't just camp anywhere we want. After a long day and just back from the westernmost point, we pull into this enormous hotel complex that has camping on their grounds, which is absolutely perfect for us and the kind of place that we wind up staying most nights. After setting up camp, cooking dinner and getting Aurora to bed, the clouds lift right at sunset and I'm treated to this epic view down on the beach with the nearby cliffs. Sometimes Iceland just turns it on when you're least expecting it.
So you might wonder why we are headed down this tiny little gravel road on such a winter rainy day. We think we just saw some sleet on the windshield. It says it's 7 degrees Celsius outside, so the snow is not going to stick yet. But what is the best thing to do on a rainy day in a beautiful place like this? Find another hot spring. Come with us, we're adventuring, trying to find another out of the way hot spring. Let's see what we find. It's never quite sure whether it's like been developed and you have to pay for it, or whether it's just a rock pool down by the ocean. Let's see what we get. Always something about finding a hot spring that just excites me. So plenty of hot water coming out of the ground there. That was about as hot as I want to keep my hand in. And then a little bit slimy. Looks like it doesn't get a whole lot of use. And there's a reason for that. There's another one about 1 kilometer away that actually we're going to go and jump in. I just wanted to come here and check out this one because of the setting. Have a look. On the side of the rushing river, so we get the hot spring pool and then the river flowing down and of course the mountain in the background. Beautiful spot, another hot spring in Iceland. I'm just going to have a look around for a minute and then let's go actually soak in another one.
The views from this one are insane, and of course I was way too excited soaking to actually get out the video camera. Whoops, sorry about that. After soaking for a couple of hours, we pry ourselves away. Maybe we need to camp at a hot spring so we can stay in all night.
So here we are, we've just pulled into camp and I've been left to cook dinner and look after Aurora. So Aurora's down there crawling around trying to figure out how to walk. She's getting closer every day. And up here on the stove, I've got some rice going and we're gonna have poke bowls tonight. So actually, we just bought today some halibut from a roadside stand. So we got these 4 pretty big pieces of halibut for $17. And it was like an honesty box on the side of the road. So there was a fridge and all that, a little shack, and you just put your money in. You could even pay with credit card. We actually bought some halibut. Katie bought some lox. Not my favorite thing, but Katie loves it. And we got some sourdough bread. So we're all set. Fresh halibut tonight, poke bowls. And this is our kitchen setup. This is how it's kind of working out. I know you're all really curious. The induction cooktop is brilliant. It is fast, it is efficient. No smell, no cigarette lighter, no refilling the smelly gasoline bottle that I always used to fill in Africa and in Australia. In terms of energy usage, the lowest I've seen the battery get is 50%, and every single day it's been back to 100. You know, at that it only takes 2 hours of driving, not even counting the solar panels. We've been heating stuff up at lunch as well. Really nice to have something hot like soup and then another hot drink. So we've been using it a lot, and the battery just hovers between kind of 80 and 100% most days. Yeah, and I'm charging my laptop, charging all my batteries. All the systems are working great. The water system is also clutch, not just to be able to fill up, you know, to cook rice or fill up a drinking water bottle, but to be able to have hot water right here. As soon as Aurora finishes eating, you know, we wet a rag and we need to wipe down her hands and her face, and it's so nice to do that with hot water that is already hot, ready to go. So the hot water heater's been turned on the entire time we've been in Iceland. Doesn't seem to draw so much power that it's a problem. So everything's going great. This is what it looks like. I mean, we're inside right now. The weather is pretty agreeable. We could be out there cooking, camping, you know, hanging around outside. But this morning when we woke up, it was cold and raining sideways. This interior living space thing, I'm starting to really like it.
When the adventures continue the following morning, conditions are absolutely ideal and the fjord is glassy still. Those ripples in the foreground, that's a whale or maybe a harbour porpoise. We kept seeing it breach and I couldn't quite catch it on the drone, but we had a good hour-long break just watching the water and seeing what would come our way. A few corners later, we spot these seals just offshore, lazing about and having a grand old time in the shallows. While the weather can be really harsh, as soon as it clears up, suddenly there's wildlife everywhere we look, and even a little dusting of snow on the mountains. Always on the lookout for more hot water, we've got the tip here on a really special hot spring maintained by a four-wheel drive club. This is not your ordinary tourist spot, and in fact, I'm willing to bet that very few foreigners have made it into this one.
So check this out. We have a guidebook of hot springs in Iceland that cost over $200. It's been out of print for about 20 years. And I guess locals are a bit annoyed that it exists because it includes some hot springs that they don't want tourists to know about. I'm gonna say this is one of those hot springs. I've been to, I'm gonna say, 200 hot springs in my life. I think this might actually be the best one I've ever been to. We're way up in the Alpine. There's a lake just there out of view. Just over the top of those mountains is a massive glacier that we can see. And these guys have outdone themselves. They've basically built like a wooden lined cedar hot tub, but it has this fiberglass cover on it that keeps the sunlight out, which super importantly, I guess, stops the algae growing. So the bottom is not slimy at all. There is no slime, there are no floaty bits, there are no chunky green blobs. The bottom is not gravel and gooey. This is utterly mind-blowing. It's a good four-wheel drive track to get up here. I had the Jeep in low range. So Katie and I just had a soak. We're just tagging out who's watching Aurora. But there are some gems still to be found. This one took some getting to, and there is kind of a more popular touristy one just down right off the highway. I'll show you that in a second. But wilderness hot springs at their best. And if you're interested in getting to some of these places that I'm getting to, I'm saving all of my GPS tracks logs and all of my GPS waypoints. So this guy is going to be in those waypoints, and they're available to Patreon supporters. So there's a link in the description. You can head over to Patreon. If you've ever thought about coming to Iceland and you want to get to some of the same places that we're getting to, check those out. I recommend coming up here. What a spot. This is kind of blowing my mind. I'm just going to soak it in for another few minutes and then we're going to roll on. I think we have about 5 or 6 hot springs on today's agenda. Rough day.
We were able to pry ourselves away from that hot spring, drive back up and over the mountain before jumping immediately back into another hot spring. Again, we had it all to ourselves and the temperature was absolutely perfect. I even saw a whale breach while soaking in this hot spring. Camping for the night is at Heidela, an amazing campground that has its own hot spring. Not only do they have an indoor one and kind of some man-made rock pools, they also have a fully natural spring on the other side of this river. We go back many times to soak, and actually we wind up camping here for 2 nights, one of our first rest days in all of Iceland. As soon as Aurora's in bed, I head down to soak, and then first thing in the morning, Katie takes the sunrise shift, so we both get plenty of time alone in the wilderness hot spring. To finish our time in the Westfijords, we set off on one last grand adventure, literally to the end of the roads. Right up here, at the end of all of this, there is an amazing hot spring, often called the hot spring at the end of the world. Like many natural hot springs in Iceland, this one has been converted into a kind of community swimming pool, and it actually has a lot of history and legacy where kids from the local community actually learn to swim here and they've grown up always swimming in hot springs. It's a really great way to get to meet locals and hang out at their speed and in the way that they like to spend time. I'll let you be the judge. Was it worth driving all the way out here for this hot spring? I definitely think it was. Leaving Kronoslag Hot Spring, I can't help but looking at the map. If we just drive up and over this one mountain, there's another F-road. It goes further. It goes even deeper into the wilderness. I'm plagued by this feeling that every time I get remote in the world, I need to know what's around the next corner. I need to drive to the end of every single road. What's down there? What if I find something magical? What if I get to a place where there's nobody else around and I can just enjoy it all to myself? When will we ever be in this part of Iceland again, in a capable four-wheel drive with food, fuel and water and plenty of time up our sleeve? And so we spend the better part of a day bouncing along the F-road right on the side of the ocean until it climbs up and clings to the side of the mountains. There's low fog obscuring the mountains and the waves crash against the rocks below. We don't see a single vehicle the entire time we're out here, and as we reach the end of the road, I finally feel like we've driven to the middle of nowhere. There is no further to go, there is nothing else to see, and there is nobody out here. This is the kind of place I dream of reaching, and this is why I explore the earth in my four-wheel drive vehicles. So check it out, we have driven to the end of the roads in the Westfijords. We have just been bouncing along this track now for a few hours. We're on the F649, it's a really remote F-road. The weather out here is wild. There's a waterfall around here somewhere, Katie's gone to try and find it. This place is insane. It's so wild. There are no more roads, we can go no further. This is the end of the line. This is going to be the end of our time in the Westfijords. Holy moly, it's only a few degrees above zero. It feels like it's pretty close to snowing. This is wild and remote. I never dreamed of this in Iceland. With my intense curiosity finally satisfied, we drive back half an hour and find a stunning place to camp, all alone. Next time on The Road Chose Me, we're driving up into the heart of Iceland. There's river crossings, Martian landscapes, more river crossings, and fresh snow on the mountains to keep us on our toes. You do not want to miss this one. Subscribe now and we'll see you soon.